first and second readings, we can go ahead and vote on this now, and if that is the case, then I would like to move for a vote.
Yeah, you just need somebody, it's a motion, so you just need somebody to second the motion, and then if there can be discussion and a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt.
Second.
You got 3 seconds.
Oh, no.
A lot of seconds.
I was going to second that.
I heard it.
All right, so,
Mrs. Mullen first, so.
we're all going to say.
Whoever you
all
heard,
in
Ms.
favor.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's wonderful, let's get this off.
Thank you, Ms. Rose, for that.
Yes, thank you.
Could I ask a question of,
No.
Yes.
At some point in the evening, you kind of have to just
I
let,
guess it's now.
it's now, Krista, it's now.
I
Yes, Dr.
wanted to inquire of Mr. Becker if you have come up with a plan for the additional snow days we have to pay back. I've been bombarded by community members, and I think it's really fair to our students, families, and the staff to clue them in as to what's going on. And if you're not ready now, could we at least make sure that we can vote on that at the next meeting so that they can make plans moving forward?
I don't think it requires a vote. I think that would be a mistake.
Okay, that's fine.
Because, there may be additional days. We hope not.
No, that is not.
But
We know
I did
that.
read that there's a severe weather alert in Sparta tonight. There are an ice storm, so.
That's right.
Fine here in
Well, we have a floating schedule now that we no longer have project graduation. We don't have a fixed date for graduation, so what we do is float the days toward the end. So every day that we have, we just back up the last day of school one more day.
Okay, so since we have 2 days over, we're currently, well, as we were scheduled to meet on Monday, and I don't know the date.
Then it would back up 2 days.
So then that would be, so we can say the graduation and the last day of school will be Wednesday.
July 13th.
Good luck with that.
All right, everybody's.
Sorry, I'm not seconding it.
I'm all for all.
We are getting one more snowstorm.
No.
Stop it, Mike.
As of this
We are
moment,
not.
second week in April, we're going to get hammered again.
As of now.
As of now,
Now, it would
that
be
would be
Wednesday,
it.
June
Whatever.
27th.
Yeah.
And I want you all to know, if it snows the second week in April, it's Mr. Scarnio's fault.
Do we need to, can I make a motion?
You can make a motion.
What, for
to hold
snow?
Michael
No, for
Scarnio.
It's
your fault. Michael Scarnio
That is definitely not required.
Can we table that one?
Wait a second. Could it happen on April 8th?
That's Sunday.
I know. Just make it happen on.
Can't snow on April 8th.
Thank you,
April 8th is my birthday. That's
Joanne. I can't, wait, okay, but this is really important. Okay. We do, believe it or not, have another public session, portion, whatever, comment on anything except the snow. I see a hand raised.
Hi, Scott Miller, 11 Hillsdale Drive, Dover, New Jersey. 2 things. The first one, I just want to say that the play Beauty and Beast was wonderful, and I just have to embarrass one of my scouts because he's here tonight. He was the best acting teacup that I've ever seen. The other question is on the financial side, on item 15. The tuition for the 7th and 8th grade, I noticed that there's a not applicable this year, and I know that maybe the commissioner has not made a decision yet. So if the commissioner decides to deny the request and the students are coming, I'm assuming that we'd be prepared to take them. Thank you.
We are prepared to discuss that. Mr. Miller, we're aware of the situation. It remains, unfortunately, because it is in the commissioner's hand, it remains at this point confidential. By the way, board members, I just have to hold you for a few minutes after the meeting. But thank you, Mr. Miller, thank you. Any other public comment?
Brian Lozano,
Hi,
27
Brian.
High Street, Dover, New Jersey. I have some articles for you all on the Board of Ed item, and I apologize for the small text in the first one. It's an opinion piece, and the second one are policy recommendations on the school resource officer.
Thank you.
I also, and you can pass those around. You can take 1 and 2, and then the next one. I apologize, I didn't make it to the first part of the public comment section. I was in the bathroom, so I missed that. Although I don't think I could have changed anybody's mind. I'm on the other side of the fence, but I am happy to know that this Board of Ed is taking the issue seriously, as we should take it seriously. It is an issue. Over the weekend, I was at the March for Our Lives. I don't know if you all knew about it. In Morristown, over 13,000 people came out, and there was a lot of support, and a lot of the kids spoke up. A lot of the youth around the county spoke up, from Chatham, from Randolph, from Dover, from Morristown, and they voiced their opinion. And at that point, I was able to understand what they were feeling and what they were thinking. And I was in high school 10 years ago. That's when I graduated. But I remember that after Columbine, we did discuss, hey, are we going to jump out the window and break our legs, or are we going to take a bullet? And however, these kids are really, they're really discussing this a lot more frequent than what I had to discuss with my peers when I was in school. And they shouldn't have to do that. They were frustrated that they were learning how to hide behind a table, or how to throw an object at an aggressor instead of learning, trigonometry or whatever it was. However, I would like to point out that throughout these youth expressing themselves, they called for action from our Congress, and they called for action from our community and from our staff. And they brought up a lot of different things, but one thing they didn't bring up was student resource officers or school resource officers. And I think that, we've already made a decision here, but I think that if you have a conversation with the kids, and I'm upset that, some of them aren't here. I don't know if they were informed that this was going to be voted on today. But they may have good reasons for not wanting one. As a matter of fact, one of the youth that spoke.
You have about 1 minute left.
All right. As a matter of fact, one of the youth that spoke at this requested, or that this not even be considered. What she would like to be considered is conflict resolution, inter-ethnic tension resolution, immigration, LGBTQIA awareness, mental health awareness. And so in the second policy packet, which is from the Dignity for, I can't remember what campaign, there are policy prescriptions. And please read it whenever you get a chance, and see if it can supplement the school resource officer. As well as I wanted to comment on the immigration issue. It is a problem. There is communication, and there have been instances, such as the one in Boston, I don't know if you're aware of it, where a school resource officer was taking note of a fight and noted down people that were around the fight that weren't involved, and through that was funneled into the immigration detention center, a youth. So I think that you should take that into consideration. Really consider the implications of a school resource officer.
Thank you.
And I had a last point, but I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Hi, good evening. Susan Shower, 346 West Clinton Street. I echo what Mr. Miller said. The play was fantastic. The teacup was excellent, adorable. And I give him a lot of credit for
I know that
down in the
teacup.
box all night. I have a question, a comment. I think it's a combination of both. Number one, under the Accountability Act, board members are required to report back to the community that pays for their training. And I haven't heard, this is the end of March now, I haven't heard any board members report that they've received training this year yet, publicly. So if you have received training, that's excellent. I encourage you to receive as much as you can. The new board members who are all on the policy committee, I'm wondering if they receive specific training from New Jersey school boards on how to develop policy, because there seems some confusion as to what the boundaries are, what the guidelines are for board members, and there also seems some micromanagement going on. So perhaps some training could help them learn what their responsibilities are, because if there are existing board members who are here and are unsure why the policies are being changed, and we have thousands of policies, I understand, in our policy system, it's going to take an awful long time to go through all of them if the rest of the board is not even aware why you are addressing changes in the policy, in addition to the changes that come directly from Strauss Esme. So that's number two. The other thing, as Mr. Lozano just mentioned, Wind of the Spirit was very active in the march over the weekend, and I understand Ms. Ruiz's concern over the SRO officer. There's a big difference between the SRO officer of the past and the SRO officer of today. Even in the town of Dover, we have young officers who have received sensitivity training. Their training is completely different. So I'm proud to say that I think our Dover officers are ready and they're willing to help out in the school system. So I hope that you feel that the community does support. In the past, also, to echo what Mr. Sparno said, we did have an SRO officer. And basically, the school board did not feel that it worked out. But the community did. The community was engaged in it and were
Excuse me,
very
I
happy.
have about a minute left.
I'm done, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? There was some, yes.
John McNeil, 519 Michael Ave. I just want to, at a previous meeting a couple months ago, we had recognized some of the Dover students that had been accepted to colleges. And I was actually notified fairly recently about one of our current students that was accepted to Harvard. So I just want to recognize that. I don't know if you can say his name.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So James Garavito was accepted to Harvard University. I think that's, yeah. Just outstanding for our school and for him. And then just secondly, just to continue with a question about the SROs from earlier. When the staff was notified about the possibility of us having SROs, it was written that they had been approved for Dover High School and for the middle school. Would they be approved also for the elementaries? Just a question, you know, because incidents can happen anywhere, so just...
I think it would be remiss to discuss where we're going to deploy people and how we're going to do it. So with all due respect, I think that's still part of the conversation, as is having the SRO. It is a proposal. I feel strongly that it's a good mechanism for the schools to use. But in terms of deployment, I think that's something we'd rather keep in committee right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maria Chacon. I live in Dover, 82A East Blackwell Street. And I wanted to voice my concern as a resident of Dover and as a parent of a 9-year-old little girl. The idea is great to have SROs at the schools, but I don't believe that that will be dealing with whatever the issues the children might be having. Bullying issues or issues at home, and maybe they're so distressed that they don't know how to handle it, so some have done what you've seen in the other schools. How are you as the board changing the way, the mentality, or providing these resources to the schools, having more social workers, having more counselors, having the teachers take some kind of training that could let them know these signs. If they see these signs, they could go report it, and things like this don't happen again. How is the board handling that? That's what
Sure. I appreciate your concern and agree with some of your concerns. The SROs would not be involved in many of those activities. In terms of HIV, we do have a counselor, Mr. Lou Taxiarco, who services many of the buildings at the elementary level. We also have a SRO. The board was kind enough to employ one for the high school in North Dover and another one for East Dover and Academy Street. That person. What's that? Not SRO. Oh, geez, I'm sorry. SAC. SAC. Yep. Boy, that was a big mistake, huh?
That was, Bob.
Well.
Seconds ago, you weren't telling them where they were going.
All right, this is my humility point.
SAC.
SAC, you know what it stands for? SAC.
Student Assistance.
Sure. We have that, so now we have an additional line, and the SACs, not SRO, and not SGO, which I was calling them earlier today. The SACs, the purpose of the SAC is not only to look for chemical dependency issues, but to provide techniques that would enable children to understand their place within society and how they don't have to follow the crowd, how they can deal with issues and problems without going to the chemical abuse or the harassment or bullying. So we have several layers. Also, our teachers are trained by Mr. Taxiarco. He visits and does a lot of HIV training in terms of process and mechanisms and how to deal with them. By saying that, I don't want to give you the wrong impression that we feel the job is over. It never is. But we are taking steps to try to combat the bullying and harassment that is really endemic in society, endemic in Facebook, endemic in Twitter. And it's almost a symptom that we see throughout our society that I think collectively we have to start solving. You know, we're shocked by this negativity of students, and then we look at Twitter and see the negativity there. So I think it's something that we all have to work on together. But there are mechanisms now, and like I say, I'm thankful to the board for the SAC, because I think that is a big help. And at first there was some concern, why do you have a substance abuse counselor for elementary students? Are they involved? No, it's a preventive technique, trying to answer a lot of the problems and concerns that might drive them into that environment. So I appreciate your concerns 100%, and the job is never done. Thank you.
Yes?
Katie Bartnick, and I live at 13 Fairfield in Mine Hill. Totally have nothing to do with that. It's new business. Tomorrow's Board of Ed meeting is not on advocacy. I just want everybody to know that it actually is on school safety. So we'll even get even more information tomorrow if any of the board members are going. It's been changed.
Thank you. Just go to Mr.
Hi, I'm Mike Perdue. I live in Chamberlain Street in Macon. I'm a teacher in the district. I have one comment and one observation. Because I'm here on a non-normal time very often, I've had the privilege of encountering Dover police officers here on school grounds and observing them interacting with students. And I've had nothing but positive things to say. And I've even discussed with some of the newer officers the kind of training they've gone through. So I'm encouraged with the future SR officers here at Dover High School. My other comment was with regard to policy 7441, which you're tabling. I agree that it should be tabled, and I think you need to look at the language. Because if we're going to have additional surveillance in the schools, I think we want to be careful about overly restricting our use of that surveillance. I'm specifically concerned with the line that says, after assessing all risk factors and only when absolutely necessary, the Bureau surveillance records may be used. I'm concerned that that's a little too restrictive, and that you want to have the ability to use the surveillance records in an appropriate manner and without overly handcuffing yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think there's, Mr. Franks, or, oh, where?
Is it me?
I think it's you. You're the only one that's stick. Well,
Bob Franks, Principal, Dover High School. Is it Mr. Lozano? Okay. You mentioned about input from students and regarding school resource officers. In the development of our March 14th recognition of students and faculty in Parkland, met with many students individually, met with small groups, our executive student council, and met with our homeroom liaisons as well. And I discussed with all of those groups, meeting with students in the cafeteria during lunch, casual conversations, wherever I can come across students throughout the building. The support for an SRO from the students has been overwhelmingly positive. So I just wanted to share that with the board. The students that I've spoken with, and there's been many of them, large groups, small groups, individuals, the support for an SRO has been certainly overwhelmingly positive.
thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry.
John Grisales, 94 Oran Drive. Just had a comment about the resource officer program. I want to say thank you. To be honest, as a parent of 3 kids in the schools, I'm going to feel more happy and are going to be a little bit more confident in the schools because it's going to be, going to feel safe for my kids and all the whole personnel in the schools. I know our schools are great. These things had never happened, but you never know if it's going to happen or not. Just today, we had a alarm in the middle school, and it was going around the whole town about it. Everybody was talking about it. The alarm happened in middle school. Second concern, everybody gets scared right away. And then it was nothing, but it is a concern. This I really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. This gentleman here and then next.
Ronnie Kurz, Benostrid Ave in Dover. I just want to echo what everyone else is saying. As a parent of Dover, as a parent and a Dover resident, I'm all for SROs in every one of our schools to keep our kids safe.
Thank you. And there was a gentleman. Thank you.
My name is Stuart Seidenstricker. I don't live in Dover. I live in Morris County, Madison, New Jersey. I have my address over there. And I've been thinking about Dover for a long time. Several times when we had a problem with Jefferson School, you went to play and there was this little issue. I presented to the Human Relations Committee what we had been doing with youth. And I guess in case you didn't get all the way here, so I thought, you know what, this time let me walk out there. So just by show of hands, I would like to know who was at the end of these marches that happened on this weekend? Anybody here was at any of these marches that happened in the country? There were about 800 of them, over 1 million kids out there. And I was extremely impressed by what I heard. I mean, they were talking about gun control, they were talking about different background checks, all the stuff that we know it's going to happen one way or another. But what impressed me the most was the vision of inclusion that the youth are taking. They're taking this beyond just the school shooting. They're understanding Parkland kids are knowing that they're privileged. So they're walking everybody on the stage, right? I mean, the Parkland girl there in Washington, D.C. brought the granddaughter of Martin Luther King to stage. So they're making sure they understand this is beyond the shooting of the school, which they're very concerned about, but includes we're being gunned down because of our race, because of our religion, because of our sexual orientation. It's a mad situation, and the youth are going to change that. We didn't do that too good of a job. I've been here for 30 years. I came from Brazil, and I guess they're telling us that we got to do something different, and that was amazing. I particularly don't agree with gunning people. I don't want to have the rabbi with a gun, the guy and the ticket officer with a gun, the guy and Mickey Mouse with a gun. I don't think we can protect ourselves with guns. So you know what my position will be with your decision. I missed that I should have talked before you made that, but you're going to make the decision made anyway. I'm very happy to hear that the school is getting the youth involved in everything that you're doing. That's great. That you're having this as a trial thing and you're going to look it over again. That's great. But the good news that I want to bring is that I've been working now, I've been trained in the prison of New Jersey.
You have about 1 minute left.
Okay. Prison of New Jersey, I was trained in a program called Alternatives to Violence Project. A very simple thing. And for 3 years now, we've been working specifically with youth on that. Okay? So we get together in a circle and we see how we can respect each other, how we can listen to each other, how we can understand what empathy means. And you get a group of 20 people, 30 people together, don't know anything about each other. And after the 20-hour session, they all are supporting each other. So I believe, from knowing what's been happening with the people there behind the guns, these are all ostracized individuals. They're not included. If for some reason they feel out of the mix, and then they go berserk. So I think the solution is for us to see how we can include everybody in the circle.
Thank you.
And this is led by youth. So this is something that we can come in, we can work with the youth, and your own youth in Dover do their thing. It's not, so it's sort of like the bully thing, parallel, but you don't bring the PhD individual to work on it. It's ground-based. So you have my information if you want to look for me. There's a lot of kids in Morris County on this already.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Oh, yes. Sir.
My name is Victor Criollo. I live on 31B Union Street. I like to comment on how I really appreciate how students are being included into discussion about the school. And also I was wondering what type of electronic surveillance we have currently in the schools. That's pretty much.
Thank you, Lillian. It's good to see our students here at a meeting, so I do have to make that comment. I'd like you to encourage your peers to come to a board meeting. We do want to hear what you have to say. So thank you very much. Right now, in terms of surveillance, I'm not sure that we can. Mom, defer.
I think we could defer. I think there will be a lot more surveillance, and that will be thoroughly announced and posted when it is applied, and it'll be coming probably within the next several weeks.
Thanks, Victor. Janet? No, you're not going to want to hear this. May I please have a motion to go into a very brief closed session
It's for matters of litigation.
for matters of litigation?
Can we have an option?
All in favor?
Wait, is it?